The news and sport now on BBC One with Darren Jordan and Mary Rhodes.
A bomb attack in Kabul. 4 German peacekeepers are killed in the blast. 29 others are wounded. The Afghan president condemns the attack. Another mass grave is found in Iraq. More than 100 bodies may be buried. A small plane crashes into a block of flats in Los Angeles, killing 4 people. And Beckham moves closer to leaving Old Trafford as United confirm they are talking to other clubs. Good evening. 4 German peacekeeping soldiers have been killed in a suspected suicide bomb attack in the Afghan capital, Kabul. Dozens of other soldiers and several civilians were injured. It happened when a taxi packed with explosives blew up alongside a bus full of soldiers going to the airport. From Kabul, our correspondent Kylie Morris reports.
Alarm on the streets of Kabul moments after the attack.
We're looking for an ambulance down the road. Right, yeah, try and get in front.
British peacekeepers desperately clear the road to make way for emergency vehicles. The deliberate attack on a bus carrying German peacekeepers, the work of a suspected suicide bomber. The attacker drove a taxi loaded with explosives into the bus. The peacekeepers had just left their camp for the airport. They were on their way home after 6 months protecting the city. The blast was so great, it lifted and threw their bus from the road.
The investigations have started and are going on in close cooperation with the Afghan authorities.
The international forces were shaken by the attack, preventing even senior Afghan officials from reaching the scene. But the Afghans already suspect who was responsible. He says the enemies of the country, perhaps Al-Qaeda or Hekmatyar, a renegade warlord. In fact, there's no shortage of suspects, with anti-government forces calling on Afghans to attack any foreigners. It's a devastating development for the peacekeepers and a shock for the Afghan president, Hamid Karzai. He's only just back from an upbeat visit to Britain, where he said the renegade forces in Afghanistan are all but finished. It seems he spoke too soon. Kylie Morris, BBC News, Kabul.
Another mass grave has been discovered in Iraq. Relatives of missing people have been excavating the site in a former military complex at Salman Pak, just south of Baghdad. Local people say they helped bury more than 100 people there as recently as April. Our correspondent Caroline Hawley has visited the site.
It's become a grotesquely familiar scene. Relatives of Iraq's disappeared helping dig up the remains of yet more victims of Saddam Hussein's regime. Only this is a new grave. The people buried here are believed to have been alive as recently as April. Local residents say they knew something sinister had happened here when they saw buses going into Salman Pak full and leaving empty. I counted 115 bodies, Saeed al-Shomari told us. Some soldiers, some prisoners and some civilians. They were blindfolded and they'd been shot in the back of the head. But crucial evidence at what should be a crime scene is now being lost. The blindfold falls off, and no forensic teams here to help preserve and piece together the truth. We'll probably never know for sure now exactly who was buried here or why. What is evident, though, is that the killings carried out by Saddam Hussein's regime continued until the very end, and the killers are still at large. 250,000 people are thought to have disappeared under Saddam Hussein. Madiha Chaloub's still looking for a lost son. They took him away at 3 in the morning in 1991, she told me. I haven't heard anything since. What can I do? This country's terrible past is still being unearthed here. Its ghosts haunt the new Iraq. Caroline Hawley, BBC News, Salman Pak.
The Chancellor, Gordon Brown, is putting the finishing touches to the announcement that government will make on Monday about the European single currency. It's widely expected that Mr. Brown will say the time is not right to recommend scrapping the pound. As our economics editor, Evan Davis, reports, crucial to the decision was whether the economy met the famous 5 tests.
A last-minute campaign stunt by pro-Europeans today. Delaying the euro means money down the river. Too late, the cabinet decision has been made. And it seems we're not joining now, but to placate the pro-Europeans, the government will surely sound enthusiastic about the currency. Yet, haven't they tried that before? 6 years ago.
On Europe, Madam Speaker, the time of indecision is over.
Indecision over? Yeah, back then, Gordon Brown used positive words on the euro.
The period for practical preparation has begun.
The next day's papers thought we'd enter the euro around 2002. Hello euro, bye-bye pound, said the headline. Just one snag, the economics. Or 5 snags, 5 tests set by the Chancellor. Back then, one was passed. Would the euro be good for financial services? There were 4 others. Would it help investment? Would it create jobs? Is Britain flexible enough to cope with life in the euro? And is our economy convergent with the eurozone? These were failed. To the delight of Eurosceptics, it's hinted 4 tests will be failed again on Monday.
I think fundamentally nothing has changed since the Treasury last assessed their tests 5 years ago. We still have a very volatile housing market. We still do far more trade with the rest of the world, and this means we need to keep control of our economy.
Pro-Europeans have a different idea. Gordon Brown has to make our economy fit the euro. Fine words are no longer enough.
I think until now the government's euro policy has been passive. It's been waiting for the Chancellor's 5 tests to be met, waiting for the economic conditions to be right. I think after June the 9th, if the government thinks that the time isn't quite right for a referendum now, then it needs to have an active economic and political strategy paving the way towards a referendum.
John Major's euro policy was called wait and see. 6 years ago, Gordon Brown called his policy prepare and decide. Well, since then we've had very little preparation and certainly no decision. One of the big questions then for Monday is, are we now going to start preparing to join the euro? Is the government going to take those active steps to get Britain ready for the single currency? For that, we'll have to wait and see. Evan Davis, BBC News, Downing Street.
Police say the motorist shot dead near Heathrow Airport yesterday was armed with an imitation gun. He's been named as Keith Larkins, who was 33 years old and came from West London. Detectives say he was shot by officers after firing blanks towards them several times. The Radio 1 DJ, Sarah Cox, and her husband have won £50,000 damages between them from the People newspaper for invading their privacy during their honeymoon. Ms Cox received a printed apology for the pictures showing the couple naked on a private beach, but went on to sue. The settlement's being seen as a victory for celebrities who invoke their right to privacy. There's been fierce fighting in Bunia in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It comes just a day after French troops arrived to intervene in the civil war. Ethnic violence has plagued the country despite the presence of United Nations peacekeepers. In Bunia, at least 300 people have died as rival militias fight for control. Some 50,000 people have been killed in the region since 1999. From there, our correspondent Andrew Harding reports.
Out of nowhere, a ferocious storm of gunfire. United Nations soldiers dive for cover, sheer terror sweeping this Congolese town. Outside the UN compound, rival militia gangs fighting street to street. Automatic gunfire, the thud of mortars. Journalists take shelter as bullets ricochet off the building. The UN commander, interrupted by gunfire, admits his encircled forces can do nothing but watch the mayhem. On the front lines, child soldiers, tribal hatred, and the spectre of genocide. Thousands of civilians stream out of town, a familiar exodus in a country long ravaged by war. The injured lie in a makeshift hospital. Church warden Cato Augustin caught a bullet in the arm. The militia gangs must be disarmed, he says. But who will dare? These French special forces, newly arrived, seem reluctant to take on the militias.
Well, the French have finally turned up here in the centre of Bunia, but only after the fighting has ended. These troops clearly not ready yet to try to disarm the militias.
More soldiers are on their way, including British. Today was a grim warning of the turmoil they're plunging into. Andrew Harding, BBC News, Bunia.
The main opposition leader in Zimbabwe, Morgan Tsvangirai, will now appear in court on Monday to face a charge of treason. He appeared at the court building earlier today, but the hearing was delayed. Mr. Tsvangirai was arrested yesterday at the end of a week of protests against President Mugabe's regime. The Home Office Minister, Lord Faulkner, says the voices of victims must be heard more clearly in the criminal justice system. He was speaking at a special conference for the families of murder victims, including the parents of Sarah Payne and Damilola Taylor. Richard Lister reports.
A beautiful day on Tyneside for a conference touched by tragedy. Richard Taylor is here, still seeking justice for his murdered son, Damilola. Sarah Payne and June Richardson also became household names after their children were murdered. All these victims of crime believe they're ignored by the justice system. The government agrees that has to change.
It needs to be a change at every stage in the process, but the starting point must be that what the victim thinks, what the victim's family feel is known to the court, known to the sentencers, and known to the people who make decisions about when release occurs.
In 5 years of these conferences, Lord Faulkner is the first government minister ever to attend.
Yeah, thanks for you coming, we really appreciate it.
Well, I'm really glad to be here.
What he heard was a widespread view that the criminal justice system too often favours the criminal over the victim. Lynn Lovelock's son was killed by his girlfriend, who received 2 years probation.
Social services rewarded her by giving her new furniture because the others were blood splattered. We have been left with a bill.
I'm very keen.
The minister outlined plans for a new code of practice and a commission of the victims. Richard Taylor, for one, was impressed.
Yes, very much optimistic. I hope that within a short period he will be able to implement all what he has promised us.
Everyone here wants more rights for victims' families and tougher sentences. The government has promised both. Now it's under pressure to deliver. Richard Lister, BBC News, South Shields.
A light aircraft has crashed into a block of flats in Los Angeles, killing 4 people and injuring at least 7 others. The plane exploded, destroying most of the 3-story building. Terrorism has been ruled out.
The aircraft smashed through 3 floors of this apartment block as it plunged to the ground. With half of the building ablaze, fire crews struggled to get inside to search for trapped residents. On the roof, others fought to get the flames under control. It appears the single-engine plane, which had taken off 10 minutes earlier from Santa Monica Airport, lost power before it crashed.
We looked up, and the plane was just spalling. And we go, wait a minute, it's getting closer and closer. All of a sudden, it hit the building. You heard the impact, and black smoke came out.
The pilot of the aircraft was among those who died. Several people on the ground suffered serious burns. The Los Angeles Fire Service says it's just a matter of luck. There weren't many more casualties. Terrorism is not suspected, but the cause of the crash is still unknown. Daniel Bircher, BBC News.
Now with news of a good day for Scotland's footballers and the rest of today's sport, here's Mary.
Thanks very much, Darren. Yes, Scotland are level on points with Germany at the top of their Euro 2004 qualifying group after the two sides played out a 1-1 draw. Kevin Geary reports from Hampden Park.
Even for Scotland's fervent supporters, the traditional blind optimism has given way to pre-match apprehension under the reign of their team's German coach, Bertie Vogts. All the talk before this vital match was of the bittersweet irony of seeing the national side he once so nobly led perhaps further undermine his position in Scotland. His current team's typical enthusiasm gave them the better of the early stages, but, an old story this, the openings wouldn't come. Then the first warning at the other end as Michael Ballack strove to find his range. His passing was already in good order, and he was involved in the slick move, which was concluded with thumping finality by Freddie Bobic. 3 minutes into a rousing second half, Scotland really should have equalised. First, Crawford's volley was beaten away and his return header begged to be turned in, but Cameron barely connected at all. 4 minutes later, though, he made amends. Express thinking at a free kick freed Kenny Miller, and the Wolves man did the rest. Both sides had chances to win it thereafter, though Germany came closest when Brad Douglas stretched spectacularly to defy Klose and preserve deserved equality. A performance of rare spirit and no little skill this from Scotland, and the points keeps their qualification hopes very much alive. And Bertie Vogts can take heart from the fact that this was by far the best performance under him. Kevin Geary, BBC News at Hampden Park.
Well, in Group 10, the Republic of Ireland needed an injury-time own goal to beat Albania 2-1 in Dublin. The two sides exchanged early goals and the match appeared to be heading for a draw until Adrian Ariaj sliced a cross high into his own net. The win keeps the Republic in contention for next year's finals. Manchester United this evening finally admitted that there has been contact with a number of European clubs over a move for David Beckham. Real Madrid, Barcelona and AC Milan are said to be among those interested. David Beckham's international iconic status makes him an attractive business proposition. His price tag of over £30 million would be offset by lucrative spin-offs. In a statement issued this evening, his club said Manchester United can confirm today that clubs from Italy and Spain have expressed a firm interest in signing David Beckham. His international coach believes a move wouldn't be detrimental to his captain.
I always said it doesn't matter where he plays football. If you talk about those big teams, if he will be even better or not, I don't know, but he will definitely not be worse as a football player.
Barcelona seem confident Beckham will move to the Nou Camp. The club said today conversations with United are advanced and progressing very well. But the final destination for family Beckham could all come down to Posh's palate, paella or pizza. Now, in a thrilling finish, Chris Kinn won the Vodafone Derby at Epsom this afternoon. Ridden by Kieran Fallon and trained by Sir Michael Stout, the 6-to-1 shot won by a length to pick up the first prize of over £850,000. The Great Gatsby was second, with Alamshar third. England's cricketers have beaten Zimbabwe by an innings and 69 runs in the second Test match at the Riverside in Durham. England won the game inside 3 days and took the series 2-0.
Zimbabwe, hoping to salvage pride from this lost cause, did put up some resistance. After the early departure of Stuart Carlisle, Dion Ibrahim went past 50, and for a moment England might have considered the possibility of having to bat again. But after Ibrahim was trapped LBW by the improving Steve Harmison, wickets began to fall regularly. Travis Friend was impressive and made the second half-century of the innings, but Harmison and James Anderson were too good for any of his partners, and by the time Doug Hondo's off stump had been removed, Zimbabwe was still 69 runs short of forcing England's openers to pad up. So a happy home team celebrated back-to-back innings victories for the first time since 1985. The organisers of this first ever Durham Test will be pleased with the result, but like some of the fans, they might rather the game had made it past the third day. Dominic Cotton, BBC News.
On finally, tennis, and Justine Henin-Ardern beat fellow Belgian Kim Clijsters to win the women's singles at the French Open in Paris. And that's all your sport. Darren.
All right, Mary, thank you. Now, before we go, a reminder of the main news tonight. 4 German peacekeeping soldiers have been killed and dozens injured in a suspected suicide bomb attack in the Afghan capital, Kabul. Well, that's the latest. There'll be news throughout the night over on BBC News 24. But from Mary and from me, good night.